Welcome to the world beyond beliefs. Our held beliefs are the only things that limit what's possible. Conversely, beliefs are the very things which allow us to expand our possibilities. It's the premise of these podcasts that by examining our beliefs and seeing them for what they are simply beliefs, it's possible for us to change our lives for the better. So the purpose of the world beyond belief is to examine beliefs, not to prove them right or wrong, but to look at their effects on your individual life and also on our collective consciousness. Hi, welcome to The World Beyond Belief. I'm Paul Marco, and I'm going to be your host for this evening's discussion. With me tonight, as always, is the charming and lovely Mindy Erkin, and she'll be contributing her 25 cents worth throughout the podcast.
Well, it's inflation. I thought it was only 2 cents.
Yeah, well, now we're charging you with 25%. Tonight we're going to have fun because we're going to talk about strange beings called psychopaths. And how does this relate to your beliefs? Well, it relates directly to your beliefs. Psychopaths have a real interest in your beliefs, in managing your beliefs, manage your perceptions, and ultimately managing what you do in life. So I think that we all need to be really heavily armed in terms of information about these psychopaths. So to that end, this conversation between Mindy and I is going to work on a couple objectives. One is to get everybody understanding that there is what Dr. Hare called an interspecies predator within our species.
Dr. Who?
Dr. Hare, he wrote a book called Without Conscience, which is one of the premier books written on the subject of psychopathy.
Okay.
And he's also a researcher. Okay, another objective would be to, after we learn about them, being able to pick them out and recognize them. Now, some people say that there are different physical characteristics you can look at to recognize a psychopath. Like some people would say you can look at their eyes, and their eyes aren't in consort with the rest of their expression. Or I've heard that women psychopaths, as they get older, they don't get crow feet around their eyes.
Okay.
Because they don't wrinkle up their eyes in laughter or crying. They just, in other words, their interpretation of that emotion is incomplete in a way. But I don't know about recognizing by their eyes or their gait. I think you can really recognize them by their actions, what they do and what they don't do, what they can do.
Okay, so you're going to tell us more about that?
I'm going to try to, get into this myself and some other people I've got on ready to enlighten us.
Okay, good.
And then as I was going through objectives, there are a lot of psychopaths in very high positions. And I think it's important that we recognize them as being psychopaths and stop worshiping them. I think there's a lot of, oh my God, I shook the hand of Bill Clinton or, O.J. Simpson. Well, that's like shaking the hand of any other psychopath. I mean, there's not an honor to that. I mean, you're as good as they are, certainly, and much better because you're not afflicted with this, whatever we're going to call psychopathy.
Mm-hmm. Good point.
Okay, so stop worshiping them, and I think another really important thing would be to begin to hold them the same standards. As we get in here, you'll realize that psychopaths,
people.
psychopathic people
Mm-hmm.
aren't singing from the same songbook that we are. They're, they have different standards and different ways that they judge right and wrong, and they're just wired quite differently.
Mm-hmm.
But there are good old standards. I mean, if you're being lied to, you should be angry and not willing to listen to the liar anymore. Um, if you've been done an injustice or somebody violates a common law, they should be held to the same, just the same common sense.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's also natural law. I mean, we should be, within the confines of some structure of sane law to deal with these, um, what some psychologists call them the morally insane psychopaths.
Mm-hmm. So great. So these are the objectives that we're going to get into as we continue our discussion. Are there more?
Yeah, there's one more. And in this series on the psychopaths that we're doing, I want people to understand a common tactic that's used by the psychopaths, which is called gaslighting. And I'll explain what that is. And my idea that psychopaths en masse are gaslighting the rest of the population. I know it's my theory, but I can explain some evidence.
Great. I'll look forward to hearing that.
All right, great. So first of all, let's talk about some misconceptions that people have about psychopaths. Now, the reason I got into this is because in the first part of my most recent book, Belief Magic, available through Amazon.com, I begin to talk about the people who are in control of large organizations and institutions and governments as being psychopaths. And the reason I do it right off the bat, after I give a few examples, is because they're not. I'm showing examples of them acting irrationally. And so I take the liberty of calling them psychopath. And I think I could back up my accusations. But my readers frequently underestimate exactly what a psychopath is. They think it might be like a sick individual or someone just a hyper drive to succeed or something. But it's not. It's something really, really different. Something that normal, operating, functioning, sane person, if there are any still around, would definitely operate totally differently than these individuals. Also, another thing I think that we should recognize as a misconception about psychopaths is you think of psychopaths as the psychopath killer that's on death row, or the homeless guy who's psychopathic and his mental capacity won't allow him to be involved in, a job or relationships or anything. Just a poor waif.
Yeah, I often kind of associate the word psychopath with some kind of a violence.
Yeah, like Charles Manson or something. You think, that's your psychopath.
Right.
Well, there was a study done by Kevin Dutton, who is the author of Wisdom of the Psychopaths. And what Dutton did is there's a checklist to determine psychopaths, produced by Dr. Hare, as I mentioned earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And he wanted to find out, this Kevin Dutton, in Britain, where the psychopaths were. So we went to various professions and various walks of life and did some testing. And he found that the number one profession in Britain that had the most percentage of psychopaths was
I don't know, tell me.
Professional CEOs. That's the head of most companies. Had a bigger chance of being a psychopath than your homeless, even your inmates.
Wow, so the implications of that mean that most of the people making the decisions that control the companies, and therefore most of us,
Right.
are psychopaths.
Right.
They're in positions of power.
Right, they're in positions of power. And actually, a corporation, the way I see it, is actually basically psychopathic on its own. I don't know how many people know this, but according to the charter that every corporation has, their decisions have to be made in the best financial interest of their stockholders. So if I'm head of Chevron and I'm looking at exploiting oil reserves in Ecuador, my decisions have to be made in the best interest of the stockholder, not in the best interest of the world in general, or the Indians living in that area, or the country of Ecuador. It has to be best interest of my stockholders. So that makes them make decisions like psychopaths. And if you're a CEO of a company and you're already a psychopath, why, it makes perfect logic, as you'll find out as we talk about this subject later. So the CEOs are psychopaths, and I'm not sure whether they did government, higher-ups in government, but I think they'd find that there's a high percentage of psychopaths there too, simply because psychopaths are all about themselves and power and influence. And so they're attracted to positions of power and influence, and they have certain real talents in terms of deception and manipulation that allows them to get into these positions, as you'll find later.
I see. It allows them to get ahead and achieve more status and so forth.
Yeah, that's what they want. They want to,
at any expense, right?
At anybody's expense, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, are you going to tell us more about what makes a person a psychopath, or some of the things on the checklist that determine if you're a psychopath?
Yeah, we're going to do that. Let me finish up with Kevin Dutton.
Okay.
Kevin Dutton's research also noted that radio and TV personalities scored quite high in the percentage of psychopaths in their profession. And that makes pretty good sense. I mean, they're in front of the public, they can be adored, they're narcissistic.
They can be a what?
Adored.
Oh, adored. Uh-huh.
They can be adored, they can be idolized, and this, psychopaths have a narcissistic tendency.
I get it.
And then, of course, they can influence.
So you've got most of the population who looks to mainstream media, for example, to get their information, and places all those well-known commentators that they listen to.
Right.
Wow, and there's a big percentage of them that
are
psychopaths?
So here you've got a CEO of a bylaw psychopathic organization employing psychopaths to give you your news and views on what's going on in the world.
Oh, great.
Yeah, so that's good. But there's more.
Okay.
The one thing that was surprising was that clergy ranked quite high.